Welcome to the Nature of Education podcast. Today we're speaking with Gary Patterson. Gary is a former teacher, a breathwork facilitator, and also a Wolf Academy Facilitator, and many other things, father, husband, farmer. So Gary, lovely to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Cormac. I'm excited to chat.
I suppose we're not just working together in Wolf Academy, but we're also good friends over the last number of years, especially through men's work. But yeah, I'd love you to maybe just start off by sharing a little bit about how you found yourself moving into, I suppose, the area of well-being or self-reflection or this kind of work. What was maybe the moment for you, or maybe there was a series of moments, but what was it for you that kind of brought you into this type of work?
Yeah, I suppose, I would have been into very sporty growing up. Would have just loved playing lots of different sports, and yeah, as you said, I was a secondary school teacher. Was teaching biology and agricultural science, and it was probably around the time of lockdown when there was no football, we weren't in school, we were stuck at home, and I came across Pat Divley doing a journaling and meditation course, and I was struggling a little bit with the lack of routine. Between the football and the school, my life and my hours, my minutes were nearly managed up until that point. So I signed up for it, not really knowing much about it, just to give me that structure. And yeah, from there kind of started journaling and meditating, and got into Pat's men's group, and then on to Niall's men's group, maybe where I met you. And yeah, I suppose it was around that time. Around that time, I was playing for Roscommon. I was teaching full time, and I suppose I had everything that I thought I wanted growing up. And there was just a kind of a little feeling in me that said, okay, there's something more. There's something more here. I would say that was probably the start of it. Yeah.
I think it's interesting that, as you said, when it started, you kind of had on the outside, maybe for someone looking at your life, they would have said, he has it all sorted. He's playing county football for Roscommon. He's good job. And, all this stuff from the outside. It sounds like it was kind of a quiet niggle of there's maybe something else out there for me, something more. How did you know to listen to that, or how were you able to listen to that, or what did that feel like, in your body? Or just because I feel like there's lots of people out there maybe with quiet niggles, but we kind of ignore them. So how did you manage to listen to that?
Yeah, it's a good question, and even the way you describe it there, like it was a very quiet, subtle. It'd be very easy to doubt it and say, no, everything is great, and just keep going. And I suppose people would have said that to me about a lot of different things along the journey. Even just thinking there, looking out at the trees, like planting a lot of trees here, people would have said, "Oh, it's a big move to plant trees on your land," and these kind of things. It's a big move to leave a permanent, pensionable teaching job. And I suppose it's something in me that not that I wouldn't have given it too much thought. I definitely would have thought about it, but there's kind of something in me that I don't know. I suppose just that courage to take those big decisions. Probably again around that lockdown time, I remember reading the book, the top 5 regrets of the dying, and that had a big impact on me. I didn't want to be 70, 80 years of age looking back thinking, I wonder now if I had actually gone with that gut feeling. I didn't want to have any regrets. So I suppose it started off with small little decisions, maybe going into those men's groups, going to different retreats and things like that. And each little breadcrumb kind of led me to the next thing. And I wouldn't say that there was too many huge decisions. It was just a series of every time I followed that gut feeling, something good would happen, and I would learn something, and I would feel, okay, this makes sense. This feels more right. And yeah, each time I followed it, would get stronger, and then I'd get another little breadcrumb, and it kind of went like that for me.
Yeah, I love that. And it's interesting because the last podcast that I recorded for The Nature of Education was around speaking around purpose, but how you might not always see this clear destination, but you just kind of follow that gut feeling or that intuition. So it's really interesting to hear that for you it was just this gut feeling, and you just followed it, you trusted it, and that kind of kept bringing you along the way. I've come across those 5 regrets a lot, and it's something that I think everyone should at least look at the 5 of them, because I think it's a great motivator to have that fear of regret, to motivate you to do things, because a lot of us get stuck in fear of other things, like fear of like you were saying there, people are like, oh, that could be very hard to start planting trees in your land, or it could be a bit of a risk to leave this good job. But if you look at the fear of regret, I think that's always greater. What was it in the men's groups that you were finding out about yourself, or what were you learning about in those groups?
I think the biggest thing that stuck with me at the start was that, from, as you said, like from the outside, it looked like I had everything, and there was definitely stuff that I was struggling with that people wouldn't see, and stuff that I was struggling with that I wasn't even aware of in myself. So, yourself being in those circles, you get to hear different men, speaking, and hearing different men, I suppose being honest was the first thing. And, when men are honest, you can hear that, okay, well, this man is struggling with something, and this man is struggling with something. And, maybe for me, looking at them, they look like they have it all together, and they look like they have a better life than me. And when I suppose, it's the same for all of us. Like, we all have different challenges and things that we're going through. So, I suppose the culture that I would have grown up in would have been, just around that strong masculine, and don't show any weakness, don't show any vulnerability for fear of being slagged, and all that kind of stuff. So to see men actually being vulnerable and being honest was the most important thing for me. And once I saw that, it kind of allowed me to start to unpack and unravel maybe some of the things that were going on for me that I wouldn't have been talking about at the time, or I wouldn't have been even aware of some of them. You'd hear a man talking, you're like, oh wow, maybe I do a bit of that, or maybe that's so the reflection of hearing other men helped my maybe self-awareness grow. Yeah,
and I think it's such a powerful thing to have that honesty in a men's group. That's why I think the circle works so well, because there's that honesty there. And as you said, our society maybe doesn't really have the spaces for us to be fully honest about what we're struggling with, especially in when it comes to men on the football pitch. Is probably not the place to be sharing it, because it doesn't feel like that's the environment. It's more competitive, and it's maybe not the right space for it either. We don't expect everyone to open up in the dressing room either, but it's nice to have a space where we can drop all of this this armor or this persona, and just be real and authentic and honest. And as you said, I think a lot of men, when they hear about men's circle, just from what I've seen and heard, they're kind of like, oh, I don't want to talk about me feelings, or that's a bit weak, or that's a bit soft. And they also, I think the other thing is that some men think like, sure, I don't have any, I don't have anything I need to talk about. And but as you said there, it's like once you step into that space, there's things you didn't realize that are actually going on inside you. You just, because you're busy working and playing football and whatever else, you're not really listening to what's actually going on. But when you take the time to slow down, you're like, oh, there is actually lots of stuff here I haven't dealt with, and
Mm.
yeah, and I think for me anyway, it's not about men's work. I think people can think it's just about the being soft and sharing your emotions and all that, but yeah, there's so much more to it.
Mm. Yeah, and even just on that, I think that especially for young men now, it's like the perfect storm of, back in the olden days, it would have been, just men get up and get on with it, and you know, big boys don't cry, all those type of things. And then you have maybe even for the younger generations now, like the influence of social media and just seeing the highlight reels of everybody's lives and kind of doubling down on that idea that, oh, well, everybody else's life is better than mine and nobody has any struggles. So from a societal point of view, we're encouraged to, get up and get on with things, and sure, oh, like maybe there's other people have it worse off, and who are we to be complaining or, feeling sorry for ourselves about different things. And also then, like, yeah, the young people having thousands and millions of people to compare themselves to. I think that's a huge challenge for especially young men nowadays. Yeah.
I was only reading an article on that there earlier today about a study that was done on the manosphere, but I think it's highlighting something important about the need for young men to find what is masculinity, and yes, they're finding a bad example of it. It's quite distorted, but it just shows that they are looking for something, and they're looking for guidance from other men,
Mm-hmm.
because that's something probably in our DNA. We need guidance of how to be a man from older men, and maybe they're not getting it at home from their fathers or from their brothers if they have them. So yeah, maybe we could speak into that a little bit about the need for that guidance for younger men.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you know, I don't know if I have authority on to be saying what modern masculinity is, but just what was coming to me there when you were saying it is that it's definitely not all the bravado, the tough man persona. It's definitely not just talking about your feelings. It's having a balance of both of those. It's very useful to be able to get up and get on with things and get things done and have structure in our lives and be strong when we need to. But if we're constantly in that, um, you know the figures are that suicide is a huge killer of young men in Ireland especially. And if we're constantly bottling things up and not sharing, then I feel that can be one of the main causes. But then you don't want to go too far the other way, where you're constantly in your emotions and you're crying all day every day and you can't do anything, you can't go to work. So it's about emotional intelligence, and yeah, it's something that we're not taught. I wasn't taught about my emotions, didn't know what was going on inside my body. And I think the more that we can educate young men on that side of things, there's lots of different ways, even through the Wolf Academy workshops and exercises that we would do, that would help people to maybe express emotions or tap into different emotions. And yeah, I think it's very useful to be able to do both, and to learn how to drop in and feel, and also learn how to maybe park things and come back to them at a later stage. But I suppose the idea of kind of, I suppose the word mastery is coming to me, that's what mastery is being able to choose, okay, this, and self-awareness to know, okay, I know things are getting a bit much for me now. I need to just have a chat with somebody, and to know how to do that, and then to know how to to snap out of it as well.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that concept of mastery, rather than thinking that once you tap into your emotions, you're just going to get lost in them. I think that's the fear.
Mm.
Men might brush it off as like, I don't need that. shit. You know, I just did a workshop in Lewisburg there with the teachers at the start of September, and my partner Megan just bumped into one of the teachers there, and he was an older fella in his 50s, and he was saying, "Oh, your partner was doing the workshop with us, making us look into each other's eyes." I'm like, that I wasn't able for that. Now that wouldn't be for me. And talking about our emotions, I was like, that wouldn't be for me. And it's kind of like that wouldn't be for me, as if I don't need to do that. And I just kind of laugh, because obviously you get that a lot with men at times. But it's not like we're saying, yeah, you need to always share your emotions. There's times when most of the time, you probably just need to go to work and get stuff done. But it's creating a bit of space, as you were saying, to to also feel when you need to, and to tune into your body and be like, there is something coming up for me here that's bothering me, and that's affecting my life and my relationships, and maybe I just need to sit with this emotion and see what it is. And maybe, as you like the work we have done, a lot of work with Niall Graham, and I suppose we've learned how to, through him and other people as well, we've learned how to move through these emotions in a way that's empowering. Not that, it's not about just getting rid of them either. It's actually about using them to connect deeper to yourself.
Absolutely, yeah. Because whether it's young men or old men, or any person, that we all do have emotions. And what I see a lot with the young men now is that because the emotional intelligence isn't there, they're experiencing something is kind of stirring for them. And the way that majority of young men are tending to deal with them is to distract. With the phones especially now, it's so easy to distract from what's actually going on, just forget about it, or to numb, to use alcohol, or the vapes are huge with young kids now, and all of those things, distraction and numbing, while maybe short term they can be useful to get through something difficult, like long term they're not the healthiest ways there are healthier ways to deal with emotions.
Yeah, and again, we see that in schools when we go into them. They're usually not meant to be vaping, but sometimes you would see them outside just all vaping, and it's. I think I've heard it being compared to like a soother, kind of like sucking a soother as a child. It's just giving you that sense of calm to soothe yourself. Like the word soother is soothe. So it's like an adult soother, I suppose. And it's just giving these young men and obviously young women as well. We work with young women too, but I suppose myself and yourself would have done a lot of work with the younger men, and giving them some tools, offering them some ways to actually move through these emotions, whether it's grief or whether it's fear, shame, anger, whatever it is. We go into anger much quicker than we go into the other emotions, but we don't know how to actually do it in a healthy way. So anger is kind of a protection mechanism for not having to feel the sadness underneath. So a lot of young lads will go into this kind of aggressive behavior.
I think my experience with anger was football and sport would have been my outlet, that you could channel it through a tackle, or channel it through sport in some way. And I think again, this idea that we all have stuff, and a lot of it may be coming from our childhood, that depending on lots of different things in our childhood, we will have certain patterns and certain ways of reacting to things and behaving to certain situations. And a lot of the time as kids we'll have been maybe given out to for expressing anger, so we maybe subconsciously start to learn that, okay, when I get angry I get given out to, so I'm just not going to get angry. I think that's a big one for lads.
Is
Yeah.
that something you experienced yourself when you were younger, like the kind of suppressed anger?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and like that, it wouldn't have been, maybe something that I remember
Mm,
specifically, like, but I definitely feel like, yeah, I would have been, even in school, like, like you wouldn't, anger isn't really tolerated in
mm,
many ways in school. So, and as you're saying, there's healthy anger and there's unhealthy anger, and seeing the anger as water filling up in a cup, and if you don't find a healthy way of expressing that anger, for me it was maybe through football. Um, but if you don't have an outlet for that, it is going to fill up and maybe overflow in an unhealthy way. And
mm,
um, yeah, I'd see that a lot with young lads, that they maybe don't have an outlet for it. It builds up, and then it kind of overflows in an outburst of anger. Yeah.
mm. Yeah, and I suppose that's where the danger is when it's not, you know, understood, or if we don't teach young men how to harness that anger in their body, it can just
Mm.
burst out in destructive ways of violence and aggression. And I think, yeah, like as we get older, like it gets more dangerous because, you know, especially when you're in a relationship, and that anger can spill out in a relationship. And yeah, I've seen it from working with male perpetrators of domestic violence. A lot of the time, it comes back to their inability to understand their anger and the other emotions, and it bursts out and yeah, causes physical damage and verbal abuse and all different types of all different types of damage. So it's really important
Mm.
for not only just their own, you know, mental health to understand anger, but also to, you know, to help support other people in their lives and protect other people, that men aren't going around being, I suppose, yeah, potentially dangerous to others with that explosion of anger.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I think the other piece on that then is, like the work that we would have done with the young men's rites of passage, that, in back in the day, young men would have had a rites of passage and would have had, an initiation into manhood. And yeah, I think that's a big piece as well that's missing in society. And young men, when they hit that threshold age, they do have a lot of energy and aggression and testosterone, and these
Mm.
things are happening for them. And again, like if we don't provide our young people with healthy ways, healthy channels to go into these things, they do find unhealthy ways. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it kind of comes back to what I was speaking about earlier about that manosphere. That, like, you know, they are looking for guidance from older men, and unfortunately, if we don't provide healthy guidance and healthy ways for them to move through this anger, they'll attach it to figures who are maybe, you know, giving them a false sense of manhood, or they'll do it in unhealthy ways. And yeah, that's what I suppose we were trying to do with that rites of passage, was to start to create that place where young men can come and express anger and understand how to channel it in ways that's empowering rather than destructive.
Even just the way you said that, like that, it's empowering. That, like, when we are disconnected from our anger, we are disconnected from our power, because
Mm-hmm.
this timid, shy, people pleaser, you know, maybe a lot of men not connected to their anger because they're afraid of it, and in turn, then they're losing out on so much of their power. Um,
Mm.
yeah, so if we can connect to it in a healthy way and use it for good, use it for positive things, then I think that makes a big difference for young men.
Yeah, definitely. That was definitely a big journey for me as well. When I was younger, I was very disconnected from my anger. Like what you were saying earlier, I was made to believe that it was an unnecessary emotion, and then it was only later in my life when I started doing men's work that I realized I had to reclaim my anger, to reclaim my power, and my, the ability to assert boundaries. And yeah, so I think it's such an important thing that we can't just, banish it. It's an emotion. It's part of the human experience, and we need to, just learn how to channel it. So yeah, I love that. I'd like to maybe speak a little bit about your journey with breathwork, and how did you find breathwork in the first place, or what was it about it that inspired you to become a facilitator? And you do a lot of breathwork at the moment in groups and one-on-ones with your somatic healing practice as well. So maybe if you just want to share a little bit about your journey with breathwork, and why you believe it's such an important tool for people.
Hmm. Yeah, well, again, I think it's Pat Divley that takes credit for
Good
getting
man,
me
Pat.
into it. It was part of his men's group. We did an online breathwork with Pat, and yeah, it was my first experience of doing it. I hadn't done anything like it before, and just had an amazing experience and felt really, really different afterwards. And I was like, wow, this is something. So yeah, I started to practice again. That was probably back around lockdown times. So started to do the practices myself, and yeah, it really opened my eyes to, again, that word empowering, that like I can breathe in and breathe out in a certain way, and I can feel totally different. I can use it to help me to go to sleep. I can use it to get energized before I need maybe to do a bit of work, or I can use it to focus if I need to make decisions. There's lots of different techniques, lots of different ways of breathing that can help us with our lives. And I think like every single person is breathing from the moment they're born to the moment that they die. And if you're going to be doing it for the rest of your life anyways, aren't you as well to learn how to do it properly, number one, and then how to use it to your advantage. All the professional sports teams have a breathwork coach. They're using it. You'll see them before games, taking a couple of breaths together to kind of sync up, to regulate, to focus, to calm their nervous system. And then I suppose the main type of breathwork that I teach is conscious connected. And I suppose in that type of a practice, people can access their subconscious, so they can, drop down out of the busy mind. The biggest thing that I see teaching people is that everybody is so busy and so stressed. Everybody's stuck up in their head worrying about 101 different things. And, you breathe in a certain way for a certain amount of time. And towards the end especially, people seem to have these moments of clarity and stillness where they're not thinking about anything, and they can maybe just have the thought that this really good idea that's always been there, but they've just been too busy to listen to it. And maybe you can call that your gut feeling as well, that people get a chance to tune into the body and listen to what their gut is saying. Because I think a big kind of danger now with all the teachers and with all the information that's out there on the internet is that we can look outwards for the answers, and everybody else knows what's best for me. And in truth, and I've learned this the hard way, is that the only person that knows the best thing for me is me. And to try and get to a state where I can listen to myself, I can trust myself. That's probably been the big one.
Yeah, you've covered loads of benefits of breathwork there. But yeah, I'm just smiling because I really also found those benefits, and also studied as a breathwork facilitator because of it. So I think it's one of those practices that I think is really well suited to the times we live in today, because a lot of people, I suppose, it's very popular now, breathwork, and a lot of people are doing it. But maybe before that, it was more people were trying meditation. And, whenever I used to ask people, have you tried meditation before? They'll be like, oh, I tried it, but I can't do it. I can't meditate. Which doesn't, like, I suppose the whole point of meditation is not to be good at it. It's just to practice it and keep practicing. But yeah, I think with breath work, it seems to be able to bypass that monkey mind when you do a certain amount of breaths for a certain amount of time. As you said, you can drop out of the mind and into the body and into the intuition and hear yourself again. And we did a podcast with Patrick there not too long ago as well, and he was talking about the breath and how he just uses it to help people relax, because that's what we really need at the moment, is just to, most people just need to slow down and relax a little bit, and then their nervous systems can rest and their bodies can rest and they can actually hear themselves think.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing with as you say, the difficulty with meditation is that maybe it's our patience, or maybe it's our our dopamine from the scrolling, that people find it just very uncomfortable, very difficult to sit down and do nothing. So at least with the breath work, you have something to focus on, and you can feel you can feel your body moving, you can feel the breath coming in and going out. And that's not to say that the mind doesn't get distracted, like it absolutely does, but I think it's more active than meditation. So as you say, for most people now, the mind is so busy that to sit down and meditate is either very difficult or nearly impossible. So the breath work is maybe a vehicle to move towards that. And yeah, I think that is the big thing, that most people, a lot of people are in their heads, busy and stressed, and there's a wealth of information and knowledge in our bodies. All the Gabor Mate, Bessel van der Kolk, all these books and writers speaking about like the wisdom of the body, and they say that maybe like 20% of it is in our mind, 80% of it is in our bodies, and we're completely disconnected from the body. So to be able to tap into that and to, again, even with the emotional side of things, it can help to, all the emotions are in the body. So if we breathe down into the body, yourself, oftentimes in breath work, it can stir up emotion. It can be emotional for people. And if you're working with somebody and they're dealing with grief, and you cognitively, like, they know that they're grieving, they maybe want to cry but they can't, and the tapping into the breath, tapping into the body can be a good way of tuning into those things.
And I love that you brought that in, how the body holds so much wisdom. And I think it's in the again, in the society we live in now, AI is so big and everyone's going to AI, as you said, looking outside of themselves for answers and for knowledge. And really, I think it's a great tool as well. Like any tool, once it's used the right way, it can be a great tool for saving you time for certain things where you might have needed to do a lot of research or whatever. But I think when it comes to trying to understand what we need for ourselves, or what path we want to walk, or what decisions we need to make, I think it's dangerous to start to put that outside of ourselves, and expect, like, people using, I don't want to talk too much about AI today, but people are using it for making decisions, and yes, it can help with that. But I would always, for me anyway, I suppose you can't say what's best for anyone, but I would always encourage people to look within first for, what's the answer? What do you feel the answer is? And stop looking outside of yourself and expecting someone else to give it to you. It's easier to just look outside for answers, but really, if we just tune in to the body, we probably know what we need to do. And I think it's an invitation for us to come back to that wisdom in the body and the soul, and the heart, whatever way you want to look at it. I think maybe it's all the one in some sense, but yeah, to allow us to not be so reliant on the mind and all of this external knowledge that's out there, and try and slow down and listen to what's going on inside.
Yeah, and just as we're disconnected from the bodies, like we're disconnected from the land, and just when you were saying that there, like, you know, there's so much information and wisdom in our bodies, and also in the land, you know, the mycelium network in the soil underneath the ground, that, yeah, that we've, I think, as a as a as a people, we're spending less and less time outside, less and less time in nature, connected to nature. And you know, there's a version of me not that long ago that would have thought like, oh, come on now, that's a bit mad. But you know, there's science now to back it up, and there's, like, yeah, proof that yeah, connecting in with the ground. And again, I think the whole thing of what you said there about, you know, people seeking externally for answers, you know, I speak of my experience with it, was like, I didn't trust myself. I doubted myself. So, like, I'd get, you know, maybe a sense or a good feeling of something. And yeah, we've been conditioned and programmed that, yeah, maybe somebody else knows better than you, whether that's your parents, whether that's your teacher, whether that's whatever, a coach, or, you know, that we've been trained not to trust ourselves. So I think that's, it's very easy, you know, just to say, oh, just, you know, listen to your gut feeling. But if we've not been listening to our gut feeling, it's like ignoring somebody for 15, 20 years and then expecting them to have a great chat with you. You know, if you've been ignoring somebody for that long, it's going to take a while to build up that relationship again, and it might take a little while.
Yeah, I love that. I think you're really speaking to the core of our philosophy at Wolf Academy, is that we don't know what's best for the student. The student knows what's best for them, and we're only helping guide them back to themselves. You know, we offer practices, we offer tools, but at the end of the day, it's always pointing back to them. And I think it's a different way of looking at education from, you know, the way it has been done for the last number of years and still is to a big extent. Is, you know, the teacher is the one that's there to tell you how to do different things, and, you know, it's always this information putting into you, rather than our view of it is that, you know, each young person has the wisdom inside and we're there to draw it out of them. So it's just a different way of looking at it. And I think, yeah, I love how you've brought in the land as well, because, again, I was only writing about that earlier today, about nature and the connection that we can get with nature can also help us connect back to ourselves. And yeah, for me, there's like a communication that happens, and you can start to, yeah, tune out of the busyness of technology and people, and actually just listen to a tree or the ground, or, you know, the waves. And you might hear, you know, you might hear that intuition speak through nature. So yeah, it is definitely something to develop over time. But I think for people maybe who aren't fully connected to their intuition, it's just starting that journey of, as you said, you know, going to take time to visit the silence, and build that relationship over time, because yeah, it's a practice as well. You're not going to just turn it on. Yeah.
Yeah. And even just, you know, maybe to bring it back to the school setting, thinking about schools that, you know, I taught for 5 years, and, you know, the students, like, the kids are amazing. The teachers, for the most part, are amazing, and they're, you know, doing their best, and management likewise. I feel like the issue is with the whole education system, that it's becoming more stressful for management that feeds down into the teachers and the students, and like you say, this idea of pouring information into children for an exam. And yeah, I suppose what I would have seen is that lots of students learn in different ways, and where, unfortunately, because of, class sizes and curriculums and, time restraints, there's a certain amount of material that you have to get through. And if a student doesn't learn in the way that you're teaching, then maybe it's not the best experience for them. And there's lots of different ways of learning, and I don't know where I'm going with that one. But
Yeah. No, I think, exactly. It's not the teacher's fault either. I didn't mean to make it look like the teachers are at fault here. It's the system that, they have to meet these certain requirements for, to meet the curriculum requirements and get students ready for an exam. So, yeah, I was in a school there last week in Dublin and had a really great workshop with 5 of the teachers who were all involved in the well-being in the school. Was the guidance counsellor, the SPHE coordinator, or the SPHE teacher, and a few others. And yeah, I could really, again, it's something we've heard before, but they were really emphasising the lack of time that they have to actually get everything they need done. And they're coming under pressure from parents they want their students to be doing well in the exams, and pressure from, all over. So it's it's the teachers that we're actually focusing on supporting more with our programs for schools, just to make sure that we can take some of that burden off them of trying to teach something else. So we're trying to make it easy for them to bring well-being into the school, and I think it'll be interesting to see how this convention on education, which is just happening at the moment, it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that, because I think people know that, the old way of doing things isn't really serving anyone anymore, and I don't know if it ever served us too well in the first place, but I think it's time to start imagining what should education look like, and we're doing our part, and I'm sure there's many others trying to reimagine it too in a way that's more supportive for the young people and for the teachers as well, who are doing such an important job.
Yeah, I think that's one of Wolf Academy's strengths, is that, like, policy, curriculum, all these things take so long to go through that process of change. It can be maybe 5 or 10 years of a lag time. And they, especially with technology and young people now, their lives are changing so rapidly that even with no curriculum, us trying to go in there and help them as best we can, even at that, it's changing, every year. Kids are having different challenges. Like, the world that they're having to navigate through is so different to even what we experienced.
So we're hoping that, by guiding them back to themselves and giving them more tools to do that, I think, naturally it would make sense for us to give them more of those soft skills now, because, we have all of that information we need at our fingertips, so we don't probably need to stuff it all into our brains anymore. But we're giving them those soft skills of communication and compassion and confidence, and how to build good relationships with each other and with themselves and the land and the earth. So it's exciting to be in there and do this work and see how students are quite open to it as well, and hopefully the system itself will start to value that, those skills as well. And they call them soft skills, but I think they're just life skills. Skills that we use for life. But and I suppose for you as a teacher, when you were working as a teacher, what was it that made you decide? I know you said you felt that kind of calling to something else, but what was it that made you decide to become a teacher in the first place?
Yeah, I suppose I would have done work experience when I was in TY myself in a national school and enjoyed it. I have lots of kind of younger cousins that I would have, you know, been around growing up, minded growing up, and I always enjoyed, yeah, working with kids. And June, July, and August probably were a factor as well.
Yeah.
Saw the, you know, the hours and the lifestyle of a teacher was promoted to me from home, and yeah, it's a good permanent pensionable job, and um, I was involved in sports a lot in the school as well, and um, yeah, I suppose it was something that I had a bit of an aptitude for was teaching, and um, as I say, like the kids are amazing. You know, I really enjoy, yeah, working with kids, and I feel like even when I was teaching, I was a little bit different than the other teachers. I might give kids a bit more space and a bit more, a little bit more maybe freedom or respect, more equality than it never really sat well. I know I was never really the disciplinarian,
Mm.
which you know, I would say worked with the vast majority of students, and you know, there are a few students who do need that. I might have to put that mask on every now and again, but
Mm.
for the most part, I would have, even like we do with Wolf Academy, you know, to sit in circle rather than sit in, for me to be the above the students at the top of the class and telling them what they need to know. Yeah, that didn't always sit well with me.
Mm.
Having to discipline kids or having to, you know, give out to kids for doing different things, and I suppose like the challenge that I saw as a teacher was that, you know, you might have 30 children sitting in front of you, and almost having to be a parent more so than a teacher. If I just had to be a
Mm.
teacher, it would be easy breezy. But I think teachers nowadays are having to more and more having to parent children because of,
Mm.
you know, maybe both parents are working, they're not around as much as the kids might need, and the biggest thing that I saw was, you know, the idea of respect, that because the kids weren't maybe learning that at home as much as maybe previous generations, um, that when there's a lack of respect, you know, the kids towards themselves, the kids towards their friends, towards teachers, parents, whoever it is, that I saw was the biggest issue. You know, that this idea of respect, and
Mm.
again, I don't know if the phones have something to do with it. That like the everything is just so quick and so instant that they don't respect. Even like property in the school or their own belongings, and losing things, and
Mm.
even just little things like that. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yeah.
yeah, I thought that was probably the biggest
Mm.
challenge.
Yeah, and it's interesting because yeah, that's one of the workshops we deliver. Is the first one is respect, because it's such a foundational quality to have. I think instilled from a young age, and if it's not there, it can be very hard to, I think, work with young people if that respect isn't there for you in the first place, or respect for themselves, or respect for each other, or their, as you said, their property and their things. It's kind of, yeah, for me, it sounds like maybe a lack of care. It's like a, yeah, just not really caring too much about things, and sometimes, you know, creates this apathy as well. And it's like, why should I respect people or anyone? So I think, yeah, it is a lot to expect teachers to also do that job of parenting, because like that's not your role as a teacher, and it kind of highlights the importance of, you know, supporting parents as well in their roles, because it's also something we're looking at the Wolf Academy, how we can support parents. We've done some parent webinars and stuff, but we want to kind of focus on that more over the next while, because yeah, they have such a huge role, and often, again, it's not necessarily the parents' fault, but maybe how society is set up that both parents are working. I can hear my daughter screaming in the background at the moment, but ironically, but yeah, both parents are working and there's just not enough space to maybe give all the attention, all or care that young people need. Yeah. And how have you found that yourself as a new father?
Yeah. Even just on that, before I talk about that, like I think, we mentioned a little bit about AI, and as I was teaching, like, technology was being, encouraged to be used more and more, and lots of students having devices and even using technology in the classroom. And I really see, the antidote to, the technology and the information overload for young kids' minds, getting into nature and even just like practical things. I think there's maybe, yeah, even an opportunity for the Wolf Academy to get into, like practical outdoor workshops for kids. And it doesn't have to be, really really complicated or really, anything major. It's like kids know how to play, and kids know how to create, and how to have fun. And giving them spaces outside and practical things, getting them off their phones and away from. And again, that's the exact same thing as us coming down out of our busy heads. Like when we're in our heads, we're looking at a screen, our mind is having to work so hard to process that information, that when you're outside and you don't have that, it gives the mind a chance to slow down, and again gives the body a chance to connect. But and I suppose like that, becoming a new father, it's something that I'm aware of already. Like, our little man is only like 4 months, and even already, like if there's a phone or if there's a screen, his eyes are drawn to it. And I suppose for me, trying to be as present as I can, trying to be as calm as I can with him. I think that's the challenge for anybody as a parent, for any of us who are just trying to get through the world, is like, can I be present in this moment? Because again, with the way things are in the world, there's a lot of stress out there, and it's very natural to worry about the future and about different things, and to be caught up in different things. And can I enjoy the moment that I'm in here now? Can I be somewhat calm? Can I be somewhat present? And I see that as my role as a father. And even just for anybody who's getting through life, if can you be present when you're washing the dishes, when you're going for a walk, when you're whatever it is that you're doing? Can you be there and not be thinking about the past or thinking about the future?
Yeah, no, I love that, because I feel like it's so easy to just get caught up being on your devices, thinking. I think there's a lie in that, though, thinking you need to be on it, or you need to get back to this message, or you need to check Instagram, and you need to, it's like, do you really need any of those things? Or I'm speaking to myself here, because I've my daughter's only 4.5 months, so it's being with her is, and there's sometimes you're tempted to go on your phone, but she will. I've seen it, how she'd either look at it or just feels completely disconnected from me, and she start looking away, and nearly like a sadness coming on her face. But they feel if we're connected and present, or if we're not. So it just comes back to like, what's more important here. And I just throw down the phone and be present with her for that time we're there. And it is just having those boundaries and making sure you're remembering what is important here. Is it scrolling on Instagram and getting back to all these messages, or is it actually really spending that quality time when I can, and just trusting that everything else will be fine. I can come back to it.
Yeah. And even just like to go back around to the top 5 regrets of the dying, like I'd be very surprised if anybody gets to the end of their life and they regret not replying to an email, or we're not going to remember these things. And one of my favorite things to do is to like lose my phone. I've lost my phone a few times, and just being without my phone is like, love being uncontactable and just not
Yeah.
having to worry about it. And yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's a huge thing that, maybe we look back at different generations and we're like, oh, I can't believe they did that. I think future generations will look back at us and see, you know yeah, how much we used phones. And again, it's also relatively new, that maybe it's not our fault that they've taken over as much as they have. But I think, yes, even just the idea that Steve Jobs wouldn't give his kids an iPhone or an iPad,
Mm.
and those kind of stories, that, like, the people who create these technologies don't allow their kids to have them. And
Hmm.
again, I can see how, like that, maybe the child is unsettled or something, and it's very easy to maybe give them a screen to use that as the pacifier, and more difficult to, yeah, to be present and to try and regulate with them.
Mm.
So again, that's the world that we're living in now, is that the technology is there and it's so present that, yeah, I think that's our challenge, is to rein it back as much as we can, because um, I don't think it's good for children, even teenagers. It's like as little as possible would be my
Yeah.
thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm glad to see what Australia did there about banning anyone under 16 from social media. Some
Yeah.
people might be upset about that, but I think it's a brave move, and I'm hoping that other countries will follow in that, because, yeah, it's important to protect um, young people's mental health as well, as much if we can, from technology that
Mm.
there maybe their brains aren't ready for yet, and I don't think our brains as adults are fully ready for either. Um,
Yeah, just like the caveman, like we evolved from that. And
hmm,
even our grandparents, our parents probably, like, didn't have phones. Like, you could only really compare yourself to the people in the village, and now kids, like that Jack, have
hmm,
can compare themselves to anybody around the world, and our brains aren't equipped to deal with that amount of information and that amount of comparison. So yeah.
yeah, definitely not ready for it. Yeah, I'd love to, before we finish, just maybe invite you to speak a little bit about the work you're doing on your land there at home. And yeah, because I think, yeah, one of our values at Wolf Academy, and the spiral of well-being, we have the importance of connecting with ourselves, each other, and also the land or the earth. So yeah, I'd love for you to maybe speak a little bit about what you're doing there. And yeah, it sounds like you're doing great work that's maybe not the norm to a normal farmer.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose, yeah, like myself and Grania would have went away traveling for a couple of years, and we got to experience different farms, and work in different farms. And I think there's a bit of a thing in Ireland where we tend to just do what the neighbours are doing, and we were all kind of, maybe in general, but in farming terms as well, like everybody's kind of doing the same thing. And yeah, I suppose I got to see different things, and came home with a fresh pair of eyes, and was lucky to take over the farm here. And on a very basic level, like, seeing the way that the Western world farms as extraction, we're trying to take as much as we can, produce as much as we can. And the grants have been kind of edging people that way, encouraged to produce more. And we're one of the biggest producers of beef. We export a lot of beef and milk products, and a lot of it leaves Ireland. So we're, putting a lot of chemicals on the soil and damaging our soils, damaging our waterways, and um, for what? To feed other countries. And it's having a huge impact on wildlife, on biodiversity in our countryside. And I suppose what I'm trying to do is just to do things a little bit differently, and trying to give back to the land. So yeah, with the agroforestry, like planting trees on the ground, and trying to mob graze instead of set stock, and so instead of having cattle and animals grazing the land, that you're trying to mimic nature as much as possible, that if we all died in the morning, the animals would graze and they would move on, and they would graze and they would move on, and we're the ones that have fenced them in. So the way I'm trying to graze animals is to graze them and move them on and give the land a chance to recover, gives more species of plants a chance to grow. And yeah, there's lots of different things, and I could probably talk for hours on it. But the big thing is that the mycelium in the soil, that because of the slurry, because of the chemicals that have been sprayed on the land, this fungal dominance in our soil has been depleted. So in the past, people would have seen mushrooms growing wild in the fields, and we just don't see that anymore. So taking this fungal mycelium from our forests and re-inoculating our soils with the mycelium. Farmers are struggling financially to make a living. Majority of Irish farmers have a job off the farm, whereas in the past, an Irish farmer would have supported a family of maybe 10 or 12 kids just from the farm. And even the fact that we can't do that anymore is like alarm bells for me. So with this mycelium, you can reduce your fertilizer bills because the grass is more nutritious. You can reduce your feed bills. Your animals are healthier, they're happier. The nutrient density of the food that you're producing is an awful lot higher. And it's a lot more enjoyable to be connecting with your land rather than spreading poison on it. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, amazing work that you're doing, and great sales pitch there for any farmer that's thinking of changing. It's more it's more profitable that way too. So it just makes sense on a lot of levels. So thanks, Gary. Thanks for all of the great work you're doing between the land and with the people and on yourself as well. So and with your family. So it's great to get a chance to chat to you on the podcast. And we actually are going to be doing a monthly breathwork for teachers online. It's going to be free as well for teachers or parents if they want to join as well, if they need an hour and a half every month to de-stress and give this breathwork a try. So myself and Yvonne and Gary and Patrick and a few of the other facilitators will be facilitating those sessions. So if anyone listening would like to try that breathwork, you're more than welcome to join. We'll leave the link in the description. But thanks again, Gary, for your time and all your wisdom. And we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thanks, Cormac.
So thanks everyone for listening, and we'll speak to you on the next podcast. Slán go fóill.